Curious about ontology? Today, I'll be walking you through the course called Deep Dive, creating your first ontology on learn.palantir.com. Over this course, you'll come away knowing what a Foundry ontology is and how you can build and interact with one. Let's get started. Starting from learn.palantir.com, you'll be able to find the Deep Dive, your first ontology course, on the Palantir Learning homepage. Click Take Course, and make sure that you're logged in and registered in order to do the course. Let's go through the training overview. In the introduction, you'll be able to find a high-level description of what this course covers. Today, we're going to be working with the patient journey ontology, which will cover many entities and stages in a patient's care. Additionally, under Getting Help, you can find some information on where to find the documentation and how to submit feedback. Finally, under Permissions, you can see which permissions you'll need to complete the course. Starting from Foundry, we'll begin by making a new project. If you already have a project for your learning, no need to make a new one. If you don't have the ability to make a new project on your stack, then feel free to use a project that you're comfortable with. Just make sure not to use your whole builder, because certain applications won't be available to you there. I'll click New Project, title it Learning, add a description. The default role should be Discover, and then click Create. Now, within your project, or within a project if you already have one, you'll create a new folder and title it Deep Dive, creating your first ontology after this course. Now, you're ready to install the resources required to complete this course using Foundry Marketplace. Marketplace is an application that acts like a storefront where you can install bundles of resources and data that you need to complete your work. So we'll type Control-J and navigate to Marketplace. Open it up. And then we'll search for Deep Dive, creating your first ontology. And we can see that the product is here. We'll click into the product, click Install or Install again. And now you can configure the installation. In this case, it's creating a new project for us by default, but we're going to use an existing location to use the project that we just made. Then click Next. Now, double check your content. You should have 1 pipeline and 4 datasets. Then click Next. And all validations have passed, so we're good to click Install. And now that the installation is completed successfully, the builds for the datasets will kick off. And we can click View Installation to see details about this specific installation. And if we click on the hyperlink, we can see the resources in the project that we've created. Now that we've installed the Marketplace bundle, we're ready to start building. Before we get started on building, let's talk about what the ontology is in Foundry. The ontology helps organize structured data, such as datasets, into easy-to-understand classifications called object types. You can think of object types as blueprints for your data. These object types have properties, which are attributes, like a customer's name, and instances, which are individual examples, like each customer in the dataset. This structure makes it easier to develop a source of truth, understand your data, and build applications and workflows on top of it. In Foundry, everything starts with data. Data then backs object types, which powers various applications and tools in Foundry. Now, let's talk about how concepts in the ontology map to things that you understand and work with in your day-to-day. For example, a customer object type will map to a customer dataset. Generically, a dataset corresponds to an object type. A row in a dataset corresponds to an object instance. So, for example, a customer is an instance of the customer object. A column in a dataset corresponds to an object property. So for a customer, that would be first name or date of birth. One requirement of the object type is that it must have a primary key. That means that this key is unique for each instance of the object. So for example, for the customer's dataset, you wouldn't use an attribute like the customer name, because many customers might have the same name. You'll have to pick a key that is truly unique for each customer. However, to make sure you can display the data in a user-friendly way, object types also have a title key. The primary key might not be human readable. It might be a hash string, for example. The title key should be descriptive and human readable. Now let's talk about the specific problem space that we're looking at. Today, we're going to be looking at the patient journey ontology. In our universe, we have patients, which you can see are backed by a patient dataset. Patients may undergo a surgery. A surgery is a treatment type, and surgeries will be associated with a patient outcome. Ultimately, mapping data to these object types will enable us to paint a better picture of patient outcomes and therefore improve the quality of care. In this section, you'll use the patient's dataset to create a new patient's object. This will help you learn to represent real-world entities and their relationships in your data. By the end, you'll know how to create a custom object type, link dataset columns to object properties, and save it to your ontology, which lays the groundwork for more advanced work. The first thing that we're going to do is open the patient journey pipeline. Here we are in Pipeline Builder, which contains the transformations and logic that took us from our raw data to our clean data. You'll right-click on the patient's dataset, go to Actions, and click Create New Object Type. And now we're in the Ontology Manager application, which is where we create objects, links, actions, and more for our ontology. The first thing that we'll do is configure the basic metadata for our object type. Make sure to prefix the object name with your name as to not get your work confused with your colleague's work. And note that this object type is being backed by the patient's dataset that we started from. Now click Next. Now make sure that the patient ID is the primary key and that the title key is the obfuscated patient name. At this point, you could add more properties, but for our purposes, we'll keep the current properties here. And click Next. Now we're on the page about permissions. Note that anyone who can see the backing dataset, so anyone who can see patients, can also view instances of this object type. Conversely, if they don't have viewer access to patients, they won't be able to view instances of this object type. And then we'll click Next. Next, we're able to quickly generate action types to perform basic operations on this object type. We're going to select all of them so we can create new patients, modify existing patients, and delete patients. You'll want to make sure that only certain users can carry out these action types. So make sure you select your user and then click Create. The next thing that we're going to do is save our changes to the ontology. So you can review the changes that you've made, make sure they all look correct. If you have any sort of errors, they will appear here. And then we'll save to the ontology. And now we've successfully saved to the ontology and created our object. Now we're going to continue through and create more object types for the other data sets that we have. So just like we did for patients, we're going to go to Surgeries, go to Actions, create new object type, and then carry out the same steps. Again, make sure that you prefix your object name with your name. For the primary key, this will be the surgery ID, and for the title, we'll choose the surgery name, and then click Next. Permissions will be the same. We'll create these 3 action types. Make sure that your user is the only one who can carry them out, and then click Create. And now we'll return to Pipeline Builder and do the same thing for treatment types. We'll prefix it with our names. Click Next. Make sure that the primary key is the treatment type ID. The title key was set to the treatment name, which is correct. Then we'll click Next. Generate all of these action types. And make sure that we are the only ones who can carry out these actions. Once you've completed all of these steps, you will have 3 objects. To verify that you have all 3 objects, you can go back home, navigate to Object Types, which is under Resources, search for your name, and then you'll be able to see all the object types that you've just created. At this point, You should also verify that you've saved all of your changes to the ontology. Now, so far, we've been creating our object types using the Ontology Manager application, but you can also create your object types straight from Pipeline Builder. We're going to be doing that using the patient outcome dataset. So navigate back to Pipeline Builder, go to Patient Outcomes, click on the node, go to the yellow Add Output. While you'd normally select New Dataset if you're deploying a dataset as the Pipeline Builder output, in this case, you'll select New Object Type. Now give it a name. We can also give it an icon. In this case, we can use the document, perhaps. We can also change the color. Let's toggle on to allow edits to objects of this type. Note that the patient outcome ID is already set as the primary key, but for the title key, we'll change that to patient feedback. And then we'll hit save, and then we'll hit deploy. Next, you can set the target ontology for this specific object type by going to the settings and pipeline outputs, output settings, and make sure the correct target ontology is selected. You'll also have to select an output folder. So choose the folder that you made at the beginning of this course. And then hit save. And now you're ready to save and deploy the pipeline. And then let the deployment build. Next up, we're going to talk about links. In the Foundry ontology, object links connect different object types, creating relationships that reflect real-world complexity. These links, which are based off of primary keys and forward keys, help you see how your data fits together. For example, linking a patient object to a surgery object shows the relationship between a patient and their surgeries, which is a relationship we expect to exist in the real world. Note that there are 3 types of links. There are one-to-one links, one-to-many links, and many-to-many links. It's important to consider if the cardinality reflects the real-world conditions. Before we get started on building links, we're going to go through the different types of links in more detail. We'll start by looking at a one-to-many link. We have a patient, and a patient can have a surgery, surgery A. Keep in mind, though, that a surgery is an instance of a treatment, where a treatment would be something like a knee surgery. So a surgery is specific to a patient, specific to a time. A patient can also undergo surgery B. Again, surgery B is specific to this patient and specific to a time. A patient can also undergo surgery C. Now let's talk about a one-to-one link. So now we have surgery A. A has some sort of surgery outcome. Now, a surgery outcome is going to have properties such as what was the patient's satisfaction, what was the recovery time, and there's only going to be one surgery outcome per surgery. On the other side, one surgery outcome only resulted from one surgery. Finally, let's go over a many-to-many link. So now we have 2 patients, patient 1 and patient 2. We also have treatments, treatment X, Y, and Z. Now, when we talk about a treatment, remember, a surgery is an instance of a treatment. So a treatment could be generically a knee surgery or a hip replacement, but it's not specific to a certain patient or a certain time. It's just a type of treatment that's available. So patient 1 could undergo treatment X and treatment Y. Patient 2 can also undergo treatment X, Y, and maybe even Z. So looking at this now, we can see that each patient can undergo multiple treatments, but one treatment can also apply to multiple patients. Now we're going to go back into the Ontology Manager to create our links. If you're not already in Ontology Manager, you can get there by clicking Ctrl-J and searching for Ontology Manager. And now we're going to navigate to the Link Types tab, which is where we create and manage links. We'll click Create New Link Type. Choose an object type, will be patients. And then on the other side, we'll select surgeries. Now, note at this point that the cardinality is not right. Right now, it's saying that one surgery can have many patients, when in reality, one patient can have many surgeries, but one surgery will only have one patient. So therefore, this is the correct cardinality for the relation. Notice how on the side where the cardinality is 1, we default to having the primary key as the key. On the other side, we'll select patient ID as the foreign key because a surgery is uniquely associated with a patient. Now review your link and then hit save. Next up, we're going to be creating links between surgery and treatment types and surgery and patient outcome. So straight from here, we can go to New, Link Type, and on this side, we will choose surgeries. And on the other side, we will choose treatment type. For the foreign key, we will choose treatment type ID. Now, the cardinality is correct here because one treatment type can have many surgeries, but one surgery is only of one treatment type. And then we'll click New to create another link type, and this one will be between surgery and patient outcome. So on one side, we have surgery. On the other side, we have outcome. Now, this link is going to be one-to-one because one surgery only has one outcome. So for the foreign key here, it will be the surgery ID. And then we'll hit save. Now we're going to add another type of link, and it's going to be many-to-many. We're going to be adding the link between patients and treatment types. One patient can have many treatments, and one treatment type can apply to many patients. Therefore, this is a many-to-many link. So we'll choose patients. And on the other side, we have treatment type. It will change the cardinality to many-to-many, at which point it will force us to select a backing dataset. Many-to-many joins must be backed by a join table, and so we'll have to select a join table. So we'll select the dataset, and then search for patient treatment types join table. And then we'll click on this, select. And then for each side, we have to select the primary key of the respective object type. So on this side, we will select the patient ID. And on this other side, we will select the treatment type ID. And then we will hit save. To summarize the work that we've done so far, we have created 4 object types, 3 object types we configured in the Ontology Manager application, and 1 which we configured in Pipeline Builder. We also created 4 links, and we can see that we've created 1 one-to-one link, and we can see that with the icon here, 2 many-to-one links, and 1 many-to-many link. In this final part of the training, you'll use Foundry's tool to validate your patient journey ontology and ensure it's accurate and ready for analysis. These tools help confirm your data model structure, identify areas for improvement, and begin uncovering useful insights. The next thing that we're going to do is explore your ontology using Object Explorer. Object Explorer lets you explore your ontology by selecting entities, viewing properties, and exploring links between objects, helping you understand your data's connections. To navigate to Object Explorer, you can open the sidebar, go to Applications, and search for Object Explorer. You can also search using Control-J. Click on Object Explorer. Now that we're in Object Explorer, you may see existing object types that exist in your organization. The first thing that we'll do is search for our patient object. And click on it. And here we're seeing a high-level summary of patients. These are the properties that we are configuring in the Ontology Manager application. Note that all of this appears without us specifically configuring it. However, you can do additional configuration to this view should you want to. Notice also that we can see the linked objects based off of the links that we configured just now. From this point, we're able to filter down into a smaller subset of instances of the patient object. The first thing that we'll do is filter by comorbidities. So we'll filter for obesity. Click on that and click Apply Filter. The next thing that we're going to do is traverse a link. In the lower right corner, you can see the linked objects that are linked to patients. So we'll click on Surgery, which will pivot us to look at the surgery object type. We're going to traverse another link now to go to Patient Outcomes. All the while, we can see the steps that we've taken. We can see that we started with patients who have the obesity comorbidity, jumped to surgeries, and then jumped to patient outcomes. Now that we're where we want to be in patient outcomes, we can see this high-level summary of the object type. So we can see the patient feedback, for example, the patient satisfaction, and also the recovery time. So from this, we can see that most patients with obesity who undergo a surgery recover in 6 weeks. Additionally, if we want to see a list of the individual results, we can click View All Results. And if we want to see all of the properties that are available on this object type, I can click on the cog and click Show All Columns to see a view that looks more like a data set. Now at this point, I can click the back arrow here to go back to the previous page. And just like that, we're able to get quick answers from our data using Object Explorer. The next thing that we're going to do is explore our ontology and the data backing it using the data lineage application. The data lineage application visually tracks the data's path from its origin to its current state, so it displays data sources, the processing steps, the object types, and their relationships. To get there, we will undo our last move to go back to the surgery object type. And then from here, we'll select Open In the upper corner, and then click Explore Data Lineage. Now at this point, if we want to see the objects that are linked to surgeries, I can click the link icon, which will show not only the linked object types, but also the actions that we created when we went through the steps of creating this object type. Now, this is only showing me the backing data for surgeries. If I want to see the backing data for these other object types as well, I can type Control A to select all the nodes, click Expand, and add the parent nodes. However, now that I've added all these nodes, I can't see them all, at which point I may want to lay them out so I can see them. So I'll go to Layout, click Layout All Nodes, and then I get a better picture of all of the objects and the data sets that back them. In conclusion, we have created object types using the Ontology Manager application. We created links between the objects, and we explored our ontology in Object Explorer and Data Lineage. We've reached the end of the deep dive, creating your first ontology course. What's next? We recommend checking out resources on building using the ontology, such as our end-to-end speedrun video available on our channel. Thanks for watching, and let us know in the comments which tutorials you want to see from us.